So this video is about leadership. Now, leadership has become a bit of a buzzword recently, so it comes up quite a lot in sessions. And when I think about that, I think of leadership as something we do for others, but also, importantly, the leadership we have for ourselves. And actually, at the heart of it, there is definitely huge personal elements that need to be considered and strengthened within this topic. But what does it mean within the office space? We have words like clear communication and 360 feedback, vision, strategy, strengths. But there really is no kind of cookie cutter example or one size fits all when it comes to leader. In my experience, I've worked everything from a small early stage startup with 5 people all the way up to a huge company like H&M. I've worked in England and Australia, in China, America, Sweden, and now in Germany. And the leadership that I have been given has always been very different. And while that has that incredibly important human element to it. So while it can be exciting and challenging and kind of really expressive as a person and fulfilling, it can also be incredibly lonely and isolating when people are looking to you for leadership and they are looking to you for answers. So a certain level of training is also incredibly helpful. And when that's not given in the start, leadership training or management training, it can be really difficult. So an understanding as to there are certain skills that are very useful and helpful that can be learned and incorporated. So when it comes into my coaching and I'm working with somebody in this way, for me, there's 2 elements here. The first element is kind of a letting go, and the second element is kind of bringing on and learning. And what do I mean by that? So in the letting go period, there is this kind of opportunity to allow us to really embrace the kind of human side of being a leader or a manager. That we can't know everything. And how does that feel in the body? That we need to be able to connect with others. Otherwise we can't empathize and really meet people at their level, whether it's people that we're working on the same level or within the team below us or leading those people. Sometimes if a manager or a leader is too far away, it's impossible to be able to relate to them. And of course, when we're working with people, it's all about relationships. The ability to, not knowing, the letting go of the need to know everything and kind of embracing that idea that failure is part of something. We can also, in this point, start to talk about fixed and growth mindsets and where securities and insecurities might come in. So that's certainly something that within the kind of, let's say on a cognitive level, we will talk about and discuss. Then when we can really, that's the kind of letting go part. When we start to bring in, there's some real core competencies, which I think are fascinating, very, very simple and incredibly effective. And through the work of Wendy Palmer, who has a wonderful book about leadership embodiment, which I suggest anybody who is interested in this topic look up and have a read about. There's plenty of resources online about. She talks about 3 really important leadership qualities in an embodied sense. What are those? So the first one is the inclusiveness. Inclusiveness with your non-verbal kind of body language, that we're all in this together. I'll do a little demonstration in a minute to show what that really looks like. The second piece is the centered listening. So are we able to listen from our whole being and allow the information or the message, the words from another person to come towards us, but not take it on personally? Allow them to land in the middle so we can look at the information, the words, the message, examine it, think about it, and then respond back, instead of just allowing information to come on top of us and be bogged down and overloaded or overwhelmed with information and taking it on board. There's a real visceral kind of sense of it being different, so we can work with that in a visual kind of conceptual space, a relational space. And then the third part of this embodiment is speaking up. How can we speak our truth? And that comes from the ability to speak clearly and precisely, without aggression and without collapse. So let me show you quickly what that might look like with those three things, because that's definitely something that we would work on. So, as I said, the first competency really comes from here we are, being centered and inclusivity. So how can I create a shape in my body to be inclusive? How can I be aware of my personal space? And there's obviously this, we have this kind of invisible, imaginary space around us, whether it's arm's length above or around. How can I, in my mind, and in my body, and in my conscious self, allow my inclusivity, my presence, to be in the whole room, to stretch to the four corners of the room, and to include everything that's in it? How can I be in my body? How can I be centered and feel the space around me? How can I practice just creating a felt sense, a thought pattern, an electromagnetic field around me that the people that I'm working within or with feel within this space, and feel that they can come and they are welcome, whether they are talking or we're all listening. So I love that's our first place that we would start to work with. The second place, or the second competency, which is the whole listening or the centered listening, again, having our feet on the ground, feeling supported, having our knees very slightly bent, being soft through the front, and just allowing there to be an openness. Allowing that when someone talks, I can be in a space where I can listen with my whole body. I'm not being distracted by other things, or off center, or moving around, or not really. How can I welcome in that communication, that message? How can I welcome in that other person with whatever it is they want to share? But at the same time, allowing that information to, again, come in front of me, in this space here, not on top of, whether it's difficult messages, whether it's constructive criticism, whether it's just unconstructive criticism, whether it's feedback. How can I allow it to just be available in the middle, be able to look at it, and then respond from there? And thirdly, the third competency is speaking up. Now, again, when we think about our body language and how we can speak, if I want you to do something, but not really in the right kind of position. Maybe I'm kind of, we really consider our head, our chest, and our hips. When we are, there's a difference, right? There's a difference between when I stand straight, I allow my eyes to come up, which then allows us to see many different options, opportunities. I keep myself open. My back is straight, my spine is straight. The message that I want to give can be clear and precise. I don't need to be aggressive. This is not aggressive body language, it's very neutral. And how can I do it without collapsing? I need you to do something. Come on, you're behind schedule. We told you there was a deadline. I told you, or we spoke earlier that something needed to get done. Is there an opportunity where that could get done? So just starting to embody these practices again. In the session, we will talk about them and we will play with them. We'll start to see if they are familiar or unfamiliar. And if they're necessary within the work, how can we start to really work with them? How can we bring them into our personal, deliberate practice so that when life does get difficult and tricky and throw shit at you, that you're in a place, whether it's a space to be inclusive, whether it's a space to be centered and listening, whether it's a place to kind of stand or sit with your spine straight and talk and say what's really important in a clear and precise way. So they're three really, really simple but very powerful tools. And these are things that we can add on. So there's the letting go and being human, letting go of the difficult parts and the not knowing and the fear of mistakes or fear of failure. And there's the stuff that we can build on top. I hope that has been of some interest. And I hope that it's been helpful. Thanks.